There are so many misconceptions about the 17th century, aka the black hole of historical costuming. This era is so underdone and so underrepresented that it's no wonder that fantastical rumors swirl around the era in impenetrable mist and mystery. Y'all, it's time to do some fog busting, because the 17th century is just like fruitcake. People make faces of disgust whenever you talk about it, but the majority of those people have never tried real fruitcake. The 17th century is just the same. All these various complaints and criticisms about why it's so difficult and impossible to do are coming from people who have never actually made anything in that era. They've just let the rumors intimidate them. And just like the misconception about fruitcake, all those things that make the 17th century so difficult are just plain myths. So let's bust them. A quick note, for the most part, I'm talking about feminine presenting clothing in this video, unless otherwise specified, since most of the problems are directly related to that type, and since that's what I have the most experience making, for now at least. Do we want to unpack the obvious misogynistic bias here, in that the feminine clothing is worse and horrible because of course it is, because patriarchy? Myth number 1, 17th century clothing is uncomfortable. They say that the bodices are so long, they poke you in the lady region. You can't bend or move because the bodice is so stiff because there's a busk in there. And the most frequent complaint I hear about 17th century clothing, especially mid 17th century where the bodice is off the shoulder, is that you can't lift your arms. Could I do this if that were true? No. Look, this is the same gripe that people have, that you can't breathe in a corset, that it's unhealthy and restrictive and rearranges your organs, which is 100% untrue and total BS. Feminine presenting people lived in these bodices, or bodies as they were known at the time, every day from the upper class to the lower. Yes, the higher classes and the more fashionable were stiffer and more restrictive, but that is the case throughout all the historical eras. It's not just specific to the 17th century. The center points of the bodies are, I think, the lowest of all eras except maybe the Elizabethan, especially in the 1670s where the body's point gets very low indeed. But like pretty much every other extreme era, a lot of that length is illusion. This one here, which is 1660s, almost to the lowest point that it'll get, reaches to just past my belly button. But the rest of the bodies are cut quite high, graduating from the highest point at the back where it breaks at my natural waist, down around the bum pad toward the center point. That makes it look longer than it actually is. And it doesn't hit me anywhere I don't want it, and it's pretty comfortable. The interesting thing about these styles is that while the bodice front is straight and flat, they're actually also designed to curve out over your belly. So again, it looks really long and straight, but there is actually accommodation built into the design for your body and for your comfort. And while yes, the busk does make it awkward to slouch, so does every other supportive feminine garment using a busk for every other era. Trying to touch your toes in a 17th century bodies is difficult and awkward, but so are other eras. Regency, I'm looking at you. There are other ways to bend down and pick something up. The nice thing about these 17th century bodies is that the opening to the busk is actually in the bottom center point and not at the top. So it's actually pretty easy to take out if you need to, I don't know, stretch your hamstrings in the middle of an event, or, you know, pick up that wicket that you accidentally sent flying in your enthusiasm. Myth number 2, it has to fit perfectly. I hear this mostly from experienced historical costumers about why they don't do this era. It's too hard and too intimidating because it has to fit perfectly. Okay, first of all, this is gonna be a hot take, and I already know folks are gonna drop down in the comments and argue with me about this, but we need to stop using the word perfect as a good thing and an achievable goal for us to strive to in our making. Perfect is a dirty word, because no matter how skilled you are, nothing you ever make is going to be perfect. Period. End of story. We're all human beings. And perfection is a fallacy, just like true historical accuracy is. So stop. Stop trying to hold yourself to impossible ideals. It's not healthy. Nothing has to fit perfectly because nothing will ever fit perfectly. There, I said it. Contradict me all you want, but I will die on this soapbox. Rant aside, what they really mean is that the bodies are supposed to meet exactly in the center back. The lacing wasn't designed to have a gap. And so what they think is that they literally don't have any wiggle room in their garments. Look, I'm not a historian, I'm not an expert, so I can only speak on this as far as my limited research and experience can go. But as far as I know, it's true that we're not seeing large lacing gaps in the center backs of these back lacing bodies in this particular era of time. However, we still have extant garments that remain that are center front lacing with a stomacher. I've made one on this channel and it's super comfortable. It's designed to have a lacing gap, a large one, larger than anything we see in the 18th century. So the myth is just busted with that. And while yes, the back closing bodies did need to fit a little bit better and there was a little bit less wiggle room, here are some things that we need to consider. 1. Those bodies were not being made by a home sewist. They were made by tailors professionally trained to make the thing. Back then, you wouldn't have made your bodies. So the expert could do the fitting and the construction and do it much faster. 2. They wore those suckers every flippin' day. So it was much more likely that those bodies were going to wear out or need repairs or even go out of style before the wearer's bodies changed enough to need that extra space. And if they did, they could just pay someone to have it altered and have it done quick and fast and cheaply. A lot of our extants have been. You, on the other hand, probably don't have access to an experienced tailor who is known for making bodies from this particular era. And even if you did, their fees would be exorbitant. So you're probably making this yourself on your own body, and you are not an expert. Just like I'm not an expert. You're also a modern day person with modern day responsibilities. A job, a family, a second job, a third job, if you're me, a fourth job, household chores, laundry, grocery shopping. We're busy mofos. We don't have that much time for this hobby. And it is just a hobby. And this is the black hole of costuming, and you're probably only going to make 1 or 2 of them, and they're probably not going to get worn that often. Definitely not every day. So we need to keep that into consideration when we're making the thing, because we don't have the time or the resources to have them just altered on a whim every time our body weight fluctuates. So for the sake of the gods, nobody is going to give you a hard time if you put a 2-inch lacing gap in the back of your bodies so it's adjustable when your body changes so that you can wear it more than once. And if they do, I give you full permission to kick them in the genitals. Make it adjustable. I did. Myth number 3. It's impossible to get dressed in these styles without help. Hey, guess what? I got dressed all by myself today. All sarcasm aside, obviously it's easier to have a second pair of hands whenever you're trying to put something on that's back lacing. I will always choose the front closing option over the back when I can for this very reason, because it's a rare occasion that I'm ever getting ready with other people. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that, oh, it's a breeze to get on, because it's not. However, this is not something that is limited to the 17th century. It's the same for all eras. 17th century bodies are the precursor to other feminine structural garments like stays and corsets. Therefore, they function the same way. The only difference is that 17th century bodies are worn on the outside instead of the inside, and a lot of them have sleeves. But I can honestly say I can get in and out of these bodies way faster than I can get in and out of my Victorian corset. 1, because I don't have to faff around with the front closing busk, which is just as much of a pain to get in and out of as the lacing. And 2, because this lady is spiral laced, and spiral lacing is so much easier to do on your own than cross lacing. So this goes back to the myth about how the off the shoulder sleeves are restrictive and prevent you from moving properly. And we've already debunked that. See, the fabric isn't glued to your body. It should be tight enough to support you, but not so tight that it won't move when you do. The fabric will move upward when you move your arms upward, or when you contort into weird shapes to get the back laced. I hope y'all are noticing a pattern here. Speaking of patterns, myth number 4, there are no resources. One of the greatest barriers to entry for the 17th century is that there aren't a lot of reliable, commercially available patterns out there. This is true. I'm not going to pretend that you can magically get patterns for this era without shelling out a lot of money for very expensive books like Patterns of Fashion 5, the V&A 17th century books, the cut of women's clothes, or even the exceptionally exorbitant cut of men's clothes, which I still haven't saved up enough money to buy yet. Not only that, but all of these garments are gridded patterns taken from extant examples, which require skill and resources to grade up to your personal size. And a lot of them are focused only on the earlier half of the century, especially the masculine clothing. So why is this a myth? Firstly, because there are resources out there if you look hard enough. It'll take time and effort and money, so I will say, and maybe gripe, about the fact that the 17th century is not a good era for beginners. The skills and resources required to create these garments are ones that you'll probably pick up anyway in your historical journey. The Patterns of Fashion books, the Nora Waugh books, these cover long periods of history and are really great resources to have once you've wet your feet a little in historical costuming. Editing Jackie here. The one thing I failed to talk about is accessibility, and I really want to talk about that before I go any further. I don't want you to feel like because you can't afford these books that you can't do the thing. I never want anyone to feel limited by something like that. You may not know this, but you can access these resources for free through your public library. If they don't have them on hand, I know a lot of libraries participate in a library lending program where they can share books with other libraries that participate in the program. In addition, most libraries these days have a flatbed scanner, and I know my local ones here let you scan totally for free, which means you can digitize the pages and also a black and white copier, so once you grade up the pattern to fit your particular size digitally, then you can go ahead and print for a lower cost through your library if you don't have a printer. Let me know in the comments if you would like me to do a video about how to grade a pattern up to your size digitally from one of these books. I know that Morgan has one that shows you how to do it with a camera, which is why I haven't done one in the past. But if you'd like me to show you how to do it with a scanner, which I think is actually a lot easier, just let me know. It's an easy process that makes tackling one of these patterns from these books a lot less intimidating. There is one commercial pattern out there from Nehelenia Patterns for a 1660s gown that I'm pretty sure is based off of the same garment as the one that I used to make this. And the cool thing about the 17th century is that the bodies did change somewhat in their appearance, but the basic pieces and the construction of bodies from, let's say, the 1640s through the 1680s are still pretty much the same with just some slight differences. This means that you could take the Nehelenia pattern and adjust it to suit a variety of different decades. And the petticoat construction didn't change at all. I have considered maybe doing a video where I show you how to do that. The catch is the pattern is kind of expensive, like it's more than 20 US, and it ships from Germany, so the shipping is going to be expensive. And I kind of already have a pattern, even though it is a single size and not a graded pattern. So I'll say, if y'all are interested in seeing me do that with that specific pattern, if I get maybe, I don't know, 10 to 15 people who contribute a couple of dollars each over on my Ko-fi page specifically to purchase that pattern, then I can justify buying it and doing the video. I've linked to it down below, and you can just add a little message in your donation to let me know that that is your specific intended use for it. I will say about this particular pattern though, it is not at all size inclusive. It only goes up to a US pattern size 16. So if you have a bust that's larger than 40 inches or a waist that's larger than 34 inches, you're gonna have to grade the pattern up anyway. So I'm not sure it's better or easier than trying to grade it up digitally from a scanned copy of like Patterns of Fashion. Things are changing. People are getting more interested in this era, and patterns are a supply and demand thing. Hi, my name is Jackie with an I, and 17th century is kind of my thing. It's not the only thing I do here because I'm not a one-trick pony, but I have a bunch of videos already on the 17th century that not only talk about it, but show you step by step how to make the garments. And those are only going to increase as time goes on. And some of my upcoming projects are going to include masculine presenting clothing as well. I'm doing this partially because it's my favorite era, but also because I want to make this era more accessible for you. Additionally, and this is kind of something I haven't talked about to anyone yet, I do have intentions of creating specifically 17th century patterns to purchase that are graded, potentially in collaboration with other pattern companies or maybe just on my own. But know that it is coming and we won't be in the dark forever. I promise you. Myth number 5, you'll make the thing and have nowhere to wear it. My regular viewers might yell at me for this one because I've complained about the utter lack of dedicated 17th century events pretty much in every 17th century video that I've made. And true, there are very few dedicated 17th century events, at least here in the States. They're more frequent over in Europe, but like I said in the previous chapter, human beings are lemmings. I know that that's a very INTJ way to say that, but it's true. The more people do the thing, the more people will want to do the thing, and supply and demand will do the rest. The more we talk about the 17th century, the more enthusiasm will build, so it's our job to get the ball rolling. And while there aren't many dedicated events, there are still plenty of events out there that don't have a specific period attached to it that you could wear your 17th century outfits to. I'm lucky enough to live a few hours away from a yearly event that is Age of Rapier, which is perfect for the 17th century. Outside of that, a few hours north of me, there is a yearly retreat that doesn't have a specific era. Boom, Mantua, done. A fantasy ball, 17th century unicorn. Easy. Any kind of historical picnic or an event that's based on a color or a theme, you could tailor it to your 17th century stuff. You're only limited by your own creativity. If you don't know of other groups or events near you, there is something new over on Instagram called the Costume Calendar that lists all sorts of events for all over the world. That is a really good resource for you if you haven't found your people yet. And now we come to the honest truth about the 17th century. It's a lot of work. As I get into the TED Talk part of this video, I want you to know I'm addressing this subject in this manner because I was like you for a really long time. I had patterns from Fashion 1 in my hot little hands back in 2009. My experiences working in a professional costume shop all through university got me to that point, but nobody there had the time or the spoons to show me how to actually grade up the patterns. And so I'd open that book month after month, year after year, paging through it all, wishing I knew how to approach taking those drawings and turning them into an actual pattern that I could use. I let my fear intimidate me for more than 10 years before I finally put my foot down, said it's time to stop, and forced myself to rip off that band-aid and do the thing. I'm not usually somebody who regrets their decisions, as I generally take a lot of time before I make any, but I absolutely regret not just trying to do it back in 2009. I could have figured it out if I hadn't been so scared. So we're about to get a little bit of tough love because I really do not want you to have the same experience. Time, labor, money. Some may not have the physical ability or the energy or the resources to do things like this, and that's okay. We all have different priorities and we all have different limitations. So if you've made it this far into this video and you haven't yet tackled the 17th century but want to, I'd like you to take a minute and really think about why you haven't done the thing. Is it because you don't have the physical ability or the funds or the resources to do it? Or is it because you're just afraid? What are you afraid of? You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to make things imperfectly. This isn't a competition. You're not being graded on this. I want to help you get over your fear and finally do the thing. Don't let excuses get in the way of your happiness. Is it something you may need to build to? Yeah. Is that okay? Absolutely. But make sure you build to it. Make sure you take those steps. Like exercise, the hardest part is just starting. Once you've done that, you have 100% accomplished everything you set out to do. And what happens and how well you do it beyond that point doesn't matter. What matters is that you took that first step. If you're still watching and you would like to take the next step, why not check out this video where I show you how I actually made this gorgeous outfit. Thanks for watching, y'all. I love you, and I'll catch you in my next video.